Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, House of Zwick, specifically Edward Zwick. We are here tonight talking about 2003's The Last Samurai, starring Denzel Washington. Sorry, wait, no, not Denzel. I'm sorry. Okay, we have to break that streak. Sorry, guys, we have to break the Denzel streak. This is 2003's The Last Samurai, starring Tom Cruise, Ken Watanabe, and Billy Connolly, and Tony Goldwyn, and William Atherton, and Masato Harada, and Hiroyuki Sanada. Oh my gosh, what a cast. I am so excited to talk about this tonight, and joining me, as they always do, is John Mills and Darren Moser. Boys, are you ready to talk about The Last Samurai?
We are bound by honor to discuss this and have a very good conversation about the film. Yes.
I've introduced myself. You have introduced yourself. This has been a very good conversation.
Yes, it has.
Credits.
Yeah.
well, a little more happens after that scene, but yes.
Oh, right. So, okay, I want to get this out in the open right off the bat. The Last Samurai, the title of the movie, is not talking about Tom Cruise. It's not even talking about Ken Watanabe. It is the plural of samurai, and it's talking about the last clan, all of them together, the village, like Ken Watanabe's village.
Yeah. I never.
Otherwise, it'd be Last of the Samurai, but this is The Last Samurai. Yeah.
Right.
I never understood, honestly, why. I mean, I saw this in theaters, and my brother and I never interpreted it to be that Tom Cruise was the last samurai. Like, we never understood that bit of feedback.
Right.
It was like, I mean, I didn't realize it was the plural because I don't understand Japanese very well, but like, it was one of those things where I was like, no, it's about Ken Watanabe. Yeah, it's not about Tom Cruise. What are you guys talking about? Like, it always baffled me. But that extra bit is actually, I think, very good to know that it's the plural of it. But yeah, even back then, it was like I never, I don't know. I don't know why people took it that way. I mean, was it just a bunch of people didn't see the movie? They saw Tom Cruise on the poster and they just made an assumption.
Yeah. That's okay. Pretty much what it was. Yeah, it was just like Tom Cruise movie. The title Last Samurai, and then it was just basically rage bait. It was just like, oh, great, another white guy, like going into a culture that's different than his own. It's basically Dances with Wolves. And that's the thing, is that, like, I mean,
it is Dances with Wolves in Japan. Like,
it's Dances with Wolves in Japan.
Like,
yeah, it's Avatar in Japan. This is a movie archetype. Like, this is
the emperor needs his unobtainium from the valley. It only exists in the valley. Oh gosh,
that's the only way he's going to get his modern Japan. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just like, yes, it's true. They're very, very, very similar stories. But this, like I said, it's a story archetype. Like, it is Shakespearean in how many times it's been used, and it just depends on how well you use it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the reason it works as a story template is because you need to have a character who's unfamiliar with the world to show up, so that you don't just have scenes of people sitting down and saying, well, 50 years ago, this thing sort of like, that's a very boring movie. And instead you have something where things can happen while somebody's having things explained to them natively within the context of the story. Like, it makes sense. It's a vehicle for opening up this world to the audience, because we're all going to identify with the person who doesn't know this specific way of life, sort of thing. So,
and as we were talking about before we hit record, this movie made more money in Japan than it did domestically in the States. And I saw that some reviews really praised Edward Zwick for doing his homework in showcasing the Japanese people in a proper light, and even like making distinction in proper language of Japanese, and like making sure that they use the appropriate pronunciation, getting Japanese actors, like well-known Japanese actors and lesser-known Japanese actors and everything like that. And so Zwick did his homework, and that's something I've always really appreciated about Zwick, is that you can tell that he doesn't just throw things up against the wall. Like he doesn't do things
Right.
just because they look cool. Like this isn't Braveheart, where like you're just making up stuff as you go. Even though I love that movie, but it's not historically accurate by any means. But this one is still a movie too. I'm not saying that this is like a documentary. I'm not saying that at all. Nobody write me on Twitter about it. But this got a lot of praise in Japan for outshowing Japanese. But of course, it has the Western what's the word up? Like romanticization. That's not a word.
Like westernization, kind of.
No, not westernization.
no,
the romantic sense of samurai.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, it basically it always gets down to what is the movie trying to say, right? What are the themes of the movie and that sort of thing? And it's like, how can you help but romanticize something in the context like this of an old way of life dying out, that that's that eternal struggle of modernity running up against tradition? And how do you handle that? And how do you deal with that? And are there good ways? Are there bad ways? Is there any way to deal with it except to say these clashes are just going to happen? No, we don't want to say that, obviously, but I think that if anything, it's all cards on the table. I think it's a brilliant way to sort of overlay. We've talked about how Zwick likes to look at those sort of cultural things, and he even talked about he likes to ask questions in an uncomfortable way, maybe. And it's like that to me, that's what makes a movie like this art, is that it's sort of uncompromising in the sense that it's like, well, you might have some romanticizing here, but at the same time, you have a very clear sense of what that is being used to portray, of the love that somebody might have for a way of life and seeing it die out. It's, that's something that every culture can deal with or relate to over time, I should say.
Yeah, I always kind of equate it with how we romanticize medieval knighthood.
Yeah.
Where,
yep.
Like we always, when we think of a knight, we think of everything that's good and right and true, a paragon. But in reality, they weren't. Like they were just like everybody else. There was good people. There was corrupt knights. There was, like it was, it's just like with samurai. And that's kind of how I take it. Like it's basically like our version of knights. They're, they have samurais. The people from our cultural background have knights and things like that. So like that's kind of how I see the romantic aspect of it, where you long for something that probably wasn't that ideal to begin with. But well, Darren, I think I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to agree. Yeah, I think the main difference between knights and Japan is we're around the Civil War, we're in the 1800s, and things are just moving so fast. Knights didn't have one day where the sword became obsolete and they put them all down, and like that there wasn't that. They slowly evolved into whatever came next. So instead you have but you have this moment in Japan's history that literally the samurai ended in this fight. I don't know if this is actually an historical battle. I'm assuming it's at least semi-historical.
It is based off of a historical battle in 1877 that was very similar. And that's why I wanted to talk. Like, I'm glad that you brought that up, because this is historical fiction. There's a lot of fiction in this. Yeah. I just want to say it out loud. Like, there's a lot of fiction in this, but it's the final battle is based on a real rebellion by samurai against a modern army, a modern force, and it happened very similar to what it was in the movie. Similar, not exact. I'm not going to go into exact details. But the stuff beforehand is all made up. The stuff with Algren and in Ken Watanabe, all made up. But it's the final battle is based on real stuff.
Custer's Last Stand made it to Japan. Like, maybe, yeah. Well, and not to jump to the mid end, but I really liked the scene where they're breaking Katsumoto out of his prison, because you have that last stand of that one samurai who's charging the bridge, And I think it's so important that he is charging the bridge, but he doesn't make it. He doesn't land, like he hits with the arrows, but he doesn't land a blow. And it's very kind of symbolic of like, you just cannot stand up against modern, or against guns. It's literally visual. I mean, this happens several motifs throughout this whole movie of old versus new, but I think it's really, I like that scene because it would be easy to be like, oh, it's his son, he's gonna, take down even more guys. It's like, no, he is not. He is only going to make it halfway over that bridge, and then he is going down, because that is what is going to happen.
Well, I mean, technology eventually is, I mean, you go even to Tolkien, right? What does the ring represent? Well, the ring in a sense represents technology, and no matter who wins, things are going to be different. And the age is over now. I think that what helps the movie is what Zwick did, and John Logan, who's the screenwriter, right? Doing appropriate research. Let's give more credit to Zwick, just because he's the director, he's going to make sure it goes through right. And that's what gives it that air of authenticity to it, so that we can sit there. I mean, not to belabor the point, but it's like there are so many things where it's like people pick and choose what they have an issue with in terms of historical inaccuracy. And there are so many things that are historically inaccurate that we embrace. And then there are things that are historically inaccurate where we're like, oh, well, it didn't happen like that. It's like, well, it's either, come on, let's be consistent with the way we approach it, sort of thing. I hate to break it to you, but no mobster was as noble as Don Corleone either. But it's like the first Don Corleone, not the second one. But the thing that I think audiences struggle with is that fact, that idea of, we have this built-in trust of going in that the research was done the way Zwick did it. And I think it's just to the credit of this film, like you were saying, Tristan, that it has some sense of authenticity because the people responsible for the film respected what was accurate about the time, if not the story they were telling.
Absolutely. I think that's well put. That's well put. Now, Darren, we never got where you first saw this movie. Like, did you see this in theater or did you see this at home?
No, I did. This would have been, right around college, high school era. So I definitely saw this one in theaters. What time of year was this? Oh, this was a Christmas one. This was a November, December release. So yeah, I remember big buzz for this, like the trailer. We're in, and we hadn't really seen anything. Not that we had a gap of historical movies, but I think it had kind of been a little while since like that surge of the 90s gave us a lot of historical movies. And so I remember looking forward to this one and enjoying it, everyone's like the Dances with Wolves and, Avatar wasn't a thing yet, but I remember seeing this in 2003.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see this in the theater, just like you guys. And when this was coming out, I was so freaking jazzed. Like I read everything about this movie that I could. Like when I saw the poster, I was like, okay, I need to know more about this. And when the trailer, like the teaser trailer, do you guys remember the teaser trailer?
I don't.
It was basically just drums. It was like with like epic cinematography, cinematography. And then just like, it got hyped up and then you started seeing more and more battle. It was, oh my gosh, take the time, everybody, pause this, Google Last Samurai teaser. It's one of the best teasers ever made. And just like when I saw that in the theater, like seeing some other movie, I was just like, I am going to devote myself to seeing this as soon as humanly possible. And I got to see this on opening night, and I could not have been more wowed. I was blown away. Like this was one of those things where I was just like, man, like I was not going in saying, okay, I'm going to love this movie, but I did go in saying, I hope I love this movie because I've hyped it up so much. I do remember there was one thing though, and this doesn't have a happy ending. But it was, I saw this woman with a bunch of her friends and she's just like looking really distressed. And I go, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, well, that guy over there, like, he won't move. Like, and you see this guy, and he's like it's a almost packed theater. And there's this guy who's just sitting in a middle seat, you know, has his arms outstretched. And they asked him to move down one seat, and he said no. And he just said no, and he was by himself.
So
like, he wasn't saving
seats for no reason.
He was just,
he wanted the space.
Yeah. And so I sit down right next to him, and I say, hey, we're about to watch a movie about honor, devotion, and duty. And you're telling me that you can't move your ass one seat to help somebody else. And like I said, it doesn't have a happy ending. He told me to go screw myself. I had to get up and go.
I told you I was in a bad mood that night, and don't hold it against me, but you got to drag this story up. I can't believe this, Tristan. This is embarrassing for both of us.
Yeah, I forgot to, like, we've known each other for a very, that's when we first met.
Yes, exactly. But we became fast friends
historical
afterwards.
account of this friendship.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I said, it's based on historical events. It's not real. It's based on historical events.
Yeah.
So I want to slide right into a gem of this movie, and that is the one and only Ken Watanabe.
Yeah.
This is his first American film and the first film that he's ever spoke English in, and he was nominated for an Oscar for it.
Deservedly so. I remember being so absolutely blown away by him, by his screen presence, by his performance, by the absolute control of his facial expression and tone of voice and his physicality, everything. You could not have this is the sort of thing where it's like, this is where you give the casting director a raise, because you're like, yes, that's the guy. And I remember when he later showed up in Batman Begins, I was excited to see him. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I remember that guy. Like, that was really something. And I think that it's just the most inspired. Like, this film is not what it is without him, hands down. And
absolutely,
it probably still would have been a good movie, but he absolutely is one of those people that elevates what he's in. And I'm so happy that he was cast in this film, because it turned me into a lifelong fan of his. I see his name, it's like Godzilla. I'm like, oh, it looks interesting. Ken Watanabe. All right, I'm going to go see it. That's fine. I'm in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember looking him up and being like, I need to follow this guy. Yeah. IMDb, brand new website telling me what to do.
Yeah. No, I was the same way, Darren. I looked up his name, and I said, I was like, okay, I need to get whatever I can of his, and I need to watch his career. And Ken Watanabe is the personification of how it is such a damn shame that there are so few roles for Asian men in the American film industry, because he should 100% be a leading man. Like, we should have seen him way more than we have in leading roles in American films. And it's just such a damn shame. But he was a powerhouse. Like you said, like, he was a powerhouse in this. I love that you articulated his control, like, not only the control of his body, but how he could command a scene. And that's a hard thing to do, facing up against Tom Cruise. Because whatever you believe of Tom Cruise, the man knows his way around the frame of a camera. Like, he knows where to move himself. He knows how to frame himself. He is such a filmmaker in every way of the word. Tom Cruise himself, like, he's a performer. He's an entertainer. He's a creative. And this is, I was a little hesitant when I saw the trailer. I was just like, man, this looks awesome. And then I saw Tom Cruise. I was like, okay, it's interesting. Do we really need Tom Cruise in this role? But I absolutely, he made me eat my words. Darren, what did you think?
In this movie? I'm trying to remember, because he's
at the end he does, like, he runs in his.
Okay, that's true. They were all together. I forgot.
Yeah, they were all together, and he runs. So he does run in this.
Okay,
he doesn't do his typical Tom Cruise sprint, but he does run.
The general's up on the hill, like, look at that man run. I've never seen anything like it.
This is still in that period of time where Tom Cruise was sort of going through a career. He was trying to go through a career reinvention and sort of like reorient himself with movies like, like The Last Samurai, but also he had been in Magnolia in 1999. I love that performance too.
Mm-hmm. Who doesn't?
But so and Vanilla Sky was something different, but there was a period of time where Tom Cruise was really trying to not be Ethan Hunt, and, but he's really good at being Ethan Hunt. So that's why we have the Mission Impossible movies, and I'm grateful for them because I love that series. But this definitely belongs to that period of Cruise's career where he was really trying to be a dramatic force. And what I would say is, and this might seem like a cheap way to give him praise, but I think that, again, this is where the casting of Ken Watanabe pays off, is because when a truly great actor encounters another great actor, both of them, it's like when you watch baseball or football or anything like that. And it's like, you see a team and it's like, that's a good team, but the other team they're playing against is blah. But then when two good teams go against each other, like, that's a game, because it's like, they're both aware of the other person's talents and they don't want to be shown up.
That's true. Like, for every praise we put on Kent Watanabe in the scenes where he's sharing it with Tom, like, it's because both of them are in those scenes. Because and I mean, not to poke fun at Glory again, but I think we all kind of agreed that Matthew Broderick kind of came up a little short in the leading man role in that movie. Mm-hmm. That was not the case in this one. It wasn't like, okay, give me more Kent Watanabe. Like, I don't really care what happens to this lead character. But no, he says he's saying a lot without saying a lot, with the looks, with which is kind of the whole motif of this. I mean, everybody in that village is so focused and dedicated, and just the way they're moving, the way they're talking. I love like the little characters, like the guard that's on him that just kind of follows him
Bob.
around. Yeah, Bob, yeah. And he's just there to, obviously, because he's a enemy combatant in the middle of their village. They're not stupid, but. Yeah,
he's like, you a ladies' man, Bob?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you back. You don't mind, do you?
Yeah.
I love that bit. And there was one thing though, like when Bob gets shot at the end, it's a super emotional moment because they develop a bond, they develop a friendship, and you can absolutely tell, even though not much is said between them. But when Bob gets shot, it was so hard for me not to want Cruise to scream Bob. Like,
yeah,
that might have been a little much.
You're right. You are 100% right, Darren. And Zwick made the right choice. I'm just saying, it's hard not to want it.
You reference that moment. It's in the last battle. There is a battle earlier, which is very reminiscent of the first skirmish in Glory, with everybody in the woods.
I was getting major Glory vibes. I'm like, this person made Glory too, didn't they?
But whereas that scene in Glory might have been a sketch, that one was a painting. I thought there was a much better sense of everything that was going on. And so, since we are a director-focused podcast, I would say I'm grateful for the fact that there is a specific moment in this film where I can do a 1-to-1 and I can say, how did this director grow and change? I was like, oh, he's got his battle scenes figured out now. This is good to know. Everything is much more clearly choreographed. I have much more of a sense of who's approaching from where, what's going on, how it's happening, and then even to have it resolve the way that it does. I love the way it ties into the dream at the beginning. And but I just wanted to give that bit of praise to say, bravo, Mr. Zwick, for truly demonstrating. Like, it almost feels like that's a scene where he's like, no, I know how to do this one.
Yeah.
All right.
Trust me, guys. I got this.
Yeah.
The Grays go over there and the Blues. I mean,
yeah.
I really like that you pointed that out, because it's true. I mean, like, like sometimes directors get crap for repeating themselves, but I see this as an improvement. And it's close enough where you can say, yes, he definitely was taking from his own work, but it's different enough to warrant a redo. And there's another moment that is a very much a glory moment is when Tom Cruise, Algren, was trying to get that Japanese soldier to reload his musket. And
yes.
he was shooting at him.
Yeah. I was like, did I put in the wrong movie? Because
talk about another 1-to-1 with Matthew Broderick, like shooting.
But he knows how to manipulate the audience. That's what that scene does. It communicates that they're not ready.
And once again, I think Last Samurai scene was much better because it had added depth to it because Algren was basically suicidal. Like he didn't mind if he got shot. He wanted to get shot. But he also wanted to prove his point. And I think it's a little bit more realistic because in Glory, the soldier would have gone deaf. But
that is also true.
Yeah.
That is also true. I could go on a whole tangent of like, that's the reason why Michael Mann's, shootout in Heat, like remember the praise we heaped on it. And it's like, yeah, because it was as loud as it should have been, sort of thing.
Right.
Whereas, definitely anyway.
Speaking of tangent, now you went on a little one. I'm going on it even more. So there was a moment in The Dark Knight that I cannot duplicate. I was in an IMAX theater seeing The Dark Knight, and the scene where the ballistic scene when they're trying to find out the fingerprint on the shell casing, and Bruce has that gigantic gun in the secondary bat cave, and it just blasts into concrete, brick one by one. It was terrifyingly loud in that IMAX.
Yep. Oh, I remember seeing it in IMAX. Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. It was crazy how loud that was. And because the entire audience is just kind of like taken aback. Like when you have like 1 second after it's done, everybody's kind of like, hoo, okay. And then of course, Alfred makes a comment about it, I think it could be a little louder, sir. Or something like that. Every time I watch it at home, it just does not hit you as hard as it should. Anyway, sorry, just wanted to talk about that.
Nope. Absolutely appropriate. Especially because if you're going to talk about The Dark Knight, you got to talk about Hans Zimmer. And if you're going to talk about Hans Zimmer, you got to talk about how he's got a score here.
His 100th score.
It's quite good. It's quite good.
Yes,
this was his 100th score. My God,
this was his 100th score. This was in 2003, his 100th score. Darren, what did you think? Like, we've all listened to a lot of Zimmer. A lot of people have listened to a lot of Zimmer, whether they know it or not. Darren, where do you think this ranks in his filmography? And now I'm not talking about don't give me a number, but just do you think that this is worthy of his filmography? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's mid? Do you think it's subpar? Where does it land for you?
I think it's good also in the fact that I don't hear anything else in it. It really feels like its own thing. Not that I care when composers borrow from their own work and motifs and stuff. Like, we get it. Like, I mean,
Corner.
I'm looking at you, John Williams, but no, I really like the score in this. It was nice in the fact that it wasn't an entire score of like the Japanese 2-string guitar, because we often that's the low bar that anyone can do. It's like, where it's in Japan or China or Korea, even, it doesn't matter. We're just going to use that tone and you instantly know, but it didn't do that. It didn't rest on that single type of note instead. But also it's not, it's interesting. It's classical in a different way. It's not blasting you, but it kind of is weird. It's threading the needle on feeling foreign, but also not, being an American film. It just worked. It's a beautiful score.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Like, it still makes you feel like you're in another land, but it's not inaccessible.
No,
I like that. John, what do you think?
Oh, I think it's definitely worthy of Zimmer's, filmography, for lack of a better term. I agree with you, Darren. It would have been so easy for this to go down the Gladiator route, or for me to say, oh yeah, Batman Begins comes out 2 years later. I can hear that all over the place. I didn't have that experience. In fact, while I was watching the film, I noted in my brain, I was like, yeah, this is something I could listen to. This is a score that I could have going while I'm working on something or while I'm, sorting out a bit of code or something like that. And, as trite as that might seem, that's some of the highest praise I can give it, is like, I will listen to this just for the sake of listening to it. And with Zimmer's better works, that is always the case, is I would be willing to sit down and actually listen to what he puts down as a score, because I think just like the better works of John Williams or many other composers out there, his score becomes that essential piece that helps elevate it even more. The whole is always more than the sum of its parts sort of thing with a film. And this is definitely one of those scores where, would it have still been a good and successful movie without this score? Absolutely. I bet you there are 10 other composers that could have given a great score, but Hans Zimmer gave a great score. And I don't sit there with any of these cues and think, ugh, or it's a little off, or that's a little too bombastic. Everything fit. And so it's like, that is a successful score.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to argue with that, because to me, like, I'm glad that we're all touching on, like, oh, we're not hearing this, or like, this is, like, we're not like really like cringing, because there's certain times when certain themes can be overused or certain notes can be hit a little too long. This is pre-Batman Zimmer.
Mm-hmm.
And from Batman Begins, I mean, we all know the Inception Zimmer. Everybody knows that one. He changed the game with Inception. Like, everyone's chasing that tiger. Or dragon, not tiger. I'm still thinking about Last Samurai. Sorry.
White tiger of the...
Everyone's chasing that white tiger. Yeah. After Inception. But there's a Batman Zimmer, there's an Inception Zimmer, but this is pre that. This is, you can still feel the drums, you can feel the orchestra. You can tell that this was not composed on a computer necessarily, like all of his later stuff. That may be true, that may not be true, I don't know. I'm sure there's some musical people out there who know way more than I do, who could probably poke holes in that. But you all know what I'm trying to communicate. You all know what I'm trying to say.
The Insane Robin on Twitter.
But there's another person that I want to give credit to, that I feel, like like, this was written by John Logan, the guy who wrote Gladiator. This was, composed by Zimmer, and this was shot by John Tull. And for those of you who don't know what John Tull has done, like, if you go to his IMDb page, the things that pop up on top are The Last Samurai, Braveheart, and The Thin Red Line. Just those three movies alone.
Just little films. You might have heard of them.
I've never seen The Thin Red Line. This is a reminder that I need to.
Gorgeous film. I mean, in every single way. The acting, the cinematography, the music.
Tropic Thunder.
That is a well-shot film.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is actually a really well-shot comedy. It's like disturbingly well-shot.
Like, I remember watching Tropic Thunder in the theaters and walking out like, I walked out. I was like, who the friggin' hell shot that?
Well,
one little thing on Tropic Thunder before we move on, because we should move on. But I think him shooting that is like a drama actor playing serious in a comedy role. It's like you shot it serious, even though it's a comedy movie, because it needs to look as good as like Thin Red Line and other war movies. It has to look like it.
Well, I'd say, to your point, Darren, that's what actually makes that film work as well as it does. Is it feels like the real, like it. There is, again, that historic. I'm using it wrong, but like that. No, but like, with this, there's that authentic feeling to the way things look. It looks like the world exists. And that's the only way Tropic Thunder is going to work as a comedy. But I'll also throw them under the bus, because there are actually two films we have covered here, I think, because we did House of Coppola. And so we hit on Jack and the Rainmaker, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Yep.
And so he shot
Jack
those
and
two.
the Rainmaker.
Yeah. So, but the Rainmaker was really well shot. So, Jack, I'm just trying to forget. But that's
the thing. Yeah, he also did Almost Famous, Vanilla Sky, Elizabethtown.
Okay.
Okay.
Whatever
Sorry, I had
you
to
think
look
about,
up Rainmaker again. I completely forgot what
Yeah.
the plot was of that movie. You know what? It has nothing really to do with making rain, but okay.
not too much. No matter what you might think of Vanilla Sky, that is a pretty film to look at.
I am a Vanilla Sky apologist.
Yeah.
I will defend that movie to anybody who asks.
You know what? This is all rabbit hole, but I'll just go ahead and say, and Almost Famous. Come on.
I'm surprised we haven't done a House of Crow.
We got to do House of Crow.
We should do House of Crow.
Yeah.
That'd be a good house. That'd be an interesting house.
It would be a very interesting house. It would be a really interesting house. All right, there we go. We're booking it. This is our round table right here.
This is how it works, folks. And so
Especially
John
I've
told.
never seen Jerry Maguire. I know.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. We're sold. There we go.
There we go. I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw it. It was the memory, again, tangent, like the memory on that movie. I remember I was super young when that came out. What year did that come out?
96.
96. Yeah. Okay, so I was 10 when that came out, and I remember like going to our home video store, our hometown video store. It wasn't Blockbuster. It was like Carnival Video or something like that. And they were showing Jerry Maguire on the TV. It was before like the Blockbuster era where, like they only had like those trailers that would go and everything like that. And that the same thing, like the same 5-minute loop all constantly. They are actually showing the movie, and it gets to the incredibly graphic sex scene in Jerry Maguire. And I'm 10 years old. It's playing on all these TVs. And like this woman's just like, I think it was John Travolta's wife. I can't remember her name.
Yeah, Kelly Preston.
Yeah, Kelly Preston. She's like moaning, going crazy, talking about wanting to do a threesome. And I'm with my dad, and he just goes, "Hey, what the hell?" Like, turn it off.
Yeah. That's as cherished a memory as taking my little nephews to Pizza Hut when those things existed, and somebody had turned on the Pulp Fiction soundtrack.
Oh my God.
And like I had to go to the counter. I was like, guys, no, these kids, no, not this soundtrack. Please, no.
Bring out the GIMP.
Yeah, basically. GIMP's sleeping. But the simple fact is that I don't think that there is a bad choice in terms of who they brought in front of the camera, who they brought behind the camera. And again, that's something where you need to give credit to a director, because what's a director but basically a manager? And you have to not only assemble the talent or work with the talent that the studio gives you, one of the two, but you have to get the best work possible out of everybody. And I would say that Last Samurai is an example of real skill on the part of a director to bring some very diverse talent together. I mean,
there wasn't a bad performance. Like some were high and some were low, but really across the board, there was no character that I was like, oh, why did they cast this guy? No, it was really well cast.
Well, I mean, even at that point, and what Tristan was saying earlier about how Ken Watanabe, he hadn't even spoken English on camera before. Imagine a director who doesn't speak Ken Watanabe's native language. He gets that performance. What a terrific communicator he is. What a patient and focused individual that has to be able to get Ken Watanabe to get past. Number one, there's a lot of fear that's going to be there. He's going to be very conscious of the fact of what's happening right now. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for miscommunication, cultural idiom, all of those sorts of things. And a director, regardless of how much help he has with him or she has with her, the director has to get the respect and trust of the cast. And very obviously, Zwick got that from Watanabe and everybody else to trust him that what he was asking them to do made sense and was going to present them in the best light.
Yeah, and like when you're dealing with it has to be a true partnership. I mean, both parties have to do exactly what you're talking about. And so I think like all the praise that you're giving Zwick, I'm not saying you're not, but like all the praise that we are giving Zwick, we are giving Watanabe as well, because of all the things that you just stated. And it's, like when you're setting a movie in Japan with primarily Japanese characters with primarily Japanese actors about a Japanese story and culture that is very dear to the Japanese, like, you better cross your T's and dot your I's and make sure that you are presenting everybody in the light that they need to be put in. And once again, just to echo what you're saying, like Zwick was the right man for the job. I think this was floated around with Coppola and Weir. I think those were the two directors that they were either attached or approached. I can't remember. And I feel like Coppola could have done it. It would have been a very different movie if Coppola did it. But I feel like Weir absolutely could have done it.
I agree that either one could have done it. I have to make the cheap joke of saying they didn't go with Coppola because they wanted it in less than a decade.
Right. Yeah. I think that's cheap, but fair.
I try my best here. But, let's also give credit, it was all floating around, supposedly, according to what I read in passing or whatever. Tom Cruise spent 2 years studying swordplay and the Japanese language.
Yeah.
Like, that's dedication from an actor producer to know that he had to show up as well. But man, this with Coppola would have been an interesting film. It would have been, I'm willing to bet, a longer film. Although, no, Coppola was still in his phase of trying to prove he could do it in 2 hours, wasn't he? I
can't remember, in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, it's been so long since he's done anything. It'll be interesting to see how Megalopolis turns out.
Man,
but
I cannot wait. Whether it's a masterpiece or a train wreck, I can't wait.
Listen, a Coppola production reporting that they're having troubles and budget and scheduling problems. I'm like, yes, he's at work again. Exactly. But honestly, this is 2.5 hours. I don't see anything to be cut here.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you guys, what you felt about the runtime. Because honestly, when I haven't watched it in several years, so I looked at it and I'm like, ooh, okay. Like, I was kind of expecting an hour 10 or 2:10 or two even, but yeah, it moves, but it also spends the time you need to care about these people. If you rush that, the payoff doesn't matter. So, and especially when he's put in the house of the guy he killed, like, that has to go real slow. You can't be like, I'm your dad now. It's like, no, you can't do that.
What I appreciate is, I think the actor's name is Peter Spall, the one who plays basically like the observer type. Rat dude from Harry Potter.
Well, he was in Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise as well.
Oh, I forgot. See,
Peter Pettigrew. I was what most people know him.
Even he has a completed arc in the context of the film, and I think it's interesting as well because all three of us talked about how the narration in Glory is a little tough, like who's your narrator sort of thing. And I would say that what's interesting is this gets perilously close to that territory, but toes the line and never messes up. But that's the one piece of this film where I like Zwick was playing with fire. That could have gone real wrong, real fast, but it didn't. And I'm glad that it didn't, because that's the one piece that could have burned it all down.
But he anchored it in a journal and made that journal a part of the story.
Yes.
Which I think saved it, because I understand what you're saying. But the fact that it was a plot point between Katsumoto and Algren about him reading the journal and then giving back to him at the end, saying like, when I took this, I was your enemy, or you were my enemy. Sorry. It's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful moment. And so, yeah, like I for one am very forgiving of narration, because I love narration. I know that some people see it as a story writing crutch or a screenplay crutch. I don't think so. I think when it's done well, basically anything that has Ethan Hawke narrating, I'm there for it.
Yes.
But and then Tom Cruise, I think, does a great job too. But yeah, like, I totally hear what you're saying, John.
And I like the
Well,
fact that he gives it to him in the end, because again, it's a historical-ish movie. Like, we know there's a lot of fiction in it, but it plants that seed in the audience's mind of, oh, there might be more of this that I just watched that is actually true than just a complete, because there's an account. Somebody wrote it down. Somebody was there observing. And again, not that they're trying to make the audience believe it's 100% true, but by planting that seed, I think it affects how you view the movie, how you, oh, these might have been real people who had real lives and died for their cause. And that's important.
well, I'm even talking about the fact that the journal is in that context very successful, but then having it bracketed by narration from a secondary character, what I think Zwick pulls off, what Logan pulls off, what everybody pulls off here, is that the having Cruise narrate in the centerpiece works still, because I walk away with the sense that because we see him with those journals and he says, this might be the basis for that book that you're trying to write, I feel like I've just watched a book being written. And so now that narration at the beginning and the end makes a lot of sense to me, because this is the book that guy went off and wrote. And these are the source texts he was pulling from, to create it. I might be reading too much into it, but I think that's
no. I don't think you're reading into it at all. I think this is one of those things, because like it ends with Spall's narration, with him talking about like Algren finding peace and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I think the movie lends itself to that interpretation that you're talking about. But I'm just glad that they didn't shove it in your face, like where we see him, and he's at his table and he finishes his novel and then shuts it and it says "The Last Samurai" on the cover, like anything like that. Like, I'm glad that didn't happen, because that would have been easy for some people to do. Okay, so before we give our ratings, because I think it's very clear how we all feel about this movie, I want to hear from everybody what your favorite scene was. And if you can't think of your favorite scene, give me one of your favorite scenes. Like, when I say that, what pops into your head? Doesn't even have to be your favorite, just like one of your favorite. John, you go first.
There are so many scenes that I could throw love at, from Tom Cruise replaying everybody in his brain after they've tried to assassinate him. And it shows him applying everything that he's learned while he's off with Katsumoto and everything. Like, that's brilliant. Ken Watanabe's death. Come on.
When he sees the blossoms.
When he sees the blossoms. But there's a scene that I think works so well and is a difficult one to watch and a difficult one to pull off, is when the guards are harassing the samurai,
mm-hmm.
and Cruise intervenes to save his life. But in the process, that poor young man is stripped of all of his dignity, and Cruise understands. And it's like he's the only person who understands exactly what that just cost that guy, that even though he's not dead, a piece of him died, because he realized exactly how much the world hated him just for who he was. Like, that's a scene that always played well to me, but this time it really, really hit. Like, I saw a lot of stuff in it that made me think about a lot of things, a lot of different things, and not even things that are necessarily what you would expect. And so I think that's a beautiful, beautiful moment in the film.
That's what a good movie does. It makes you think, and sometimes it brings up memories or ideas that aren't even related to it. Darren, how about you? What's a scene that pops in your brain when I ask you for one of your favorites?
I immediately thought of the I guess ninja attack. Maybe they're not ninjas, but the night attack by the
they're ninjas.
Party. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so, because we've had a long stretch of like chill at that point. We're in the village for like months and months, and it's like, hey, don't forget, this is an action movie. But it's so fast and so well cut, and the fighting is so cool. It's showing Tom Cruise has now learned. There's the moment towards the end where he and Katsumoto are like like, hey, oh, you have a sword now. Like, you're obviously not trying to kill me. I think I think we've gotten to another point of our relationship that we're not on opposite sides. And yeah, I love that whole thing. I'll probably watch it again after this. Like, just that whole sequence,
That's a
even
great
how it
sequence.
starts, where their guard is all down. They're doing a play, and the leader's kind of like in the play, which is kind of like when your principal comes in and is like a side part. It's like, it's funny because it's the principal, not because he's good, but because, you know, it's kind of outrageous. Yeah, I love that whole sequence. It's, although at the end though, I'm like, you're gonna need these guys for your end battle. Like, don't lose too many, because
I know exactly what you're saying. Like, I felt the same thing. I'm like, no.
It's like, it's a war of attrition. You're already attriting.
Yep.
For me, it was the armor scene with Taka and Algren. When Taka brings the armor and dresses him. I mean, they didn't go full romance with that scene, but there's a lot of intimacy. And I love it when movies can pull that off. And Taka, what a brilliant actress, beautiful face. She brought a lot of gravitas, a lot of quiet gravitas to the scene. And it was I think about that scene a lot. It's so well done. The music, the pacing, just the shot selection. Cruz and Kayuki they were in it together. They both knew what to do. All right, Darren, real quick, how many jolly goods are you giving this movie?
Jolly goods. Not the word I would associate with this Japanese movie, but you know, I gotta give it a 5. I can't think of a reason to give it a 4. It's just a great movie. I kind of feel sad of myself of not really watching this more often. It's probably been since it came out, because it's just, you know, life moved on and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely. And I love movies like this that have like a little period of history and just kind of tell a little story. And, you know, and especially with Japanese culture, is, again, they're going through this massive change, and they will have many more massive changes after this. But yeah, I think beautifully handled by an amazing director. You know, we saw glory all over the beginning. I mean, almost shot for shot in some ways, but that's not bad. Because like you guys have said, it was better. It wasn't like he tried it again and it didn't work a second time. It's like, you know, it's more like, oh guys, I know what to do. But it's gonna say the same thing, but even better. Yeah, even, gosh, just the beginning scene of the samurai coming out of the mist in the forest is just like that. I just need that. I know I need to watch the trailers again, but I feel like this is the kind of movie that would do well with a 1 minute of the movie trailer, where they just take like maybe that part of the forest or something else. Like, it's not the climatic battle, but take a minute from this movie and just play it. And people will be like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to go see this now. You know, and not all movies can pull off that kind of a trailer. It's not usually done. You know, I think Tenet is one where they kind of released a minute or two, or like a whole sequence, and that was enough to be like, okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah, I think they did the car chase. I think like the backwards car chase.
I thought they did the opera. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Maybe I'm misremembering. I don't know.
I thought I remember there was like, it wasn't even a trailer. It was like going to be shown before another movie, and they showed like, here's the opera scenes.
Yeah, it's the classic Nolan trick of, you know, what he did with Dark Knight Rises, and then Tenet. Oppenheimer would have been a little difficult to pull that one off.
Boom! Oh, the bomb went off. I didn't see that coming, but no. So I'm giving it 5 swords for sure.
All right, John, if you can briefly give us your
5,
your wrap up.
5. Please, I've been so bald-faced apparent about where this was headed, and I love and adore this film. I thank it for introducing Ken Watanabe to me and to American audiences in general. I think that I said this in the context of another thing, but if Glory is a sketch, this is a masterpiece painting. Like this to me is Zwick's calling card. I might enjoy his other stuff, but this is the one where if you're like, do you want to watch an Edward Zwick movie? Well, yes, I do want to watch The Last Samurai. Thank you very much. I would absolutely like to do that. So yes, 5 out of 5 from me.
Yep, that's it's 5 from me. This is an amazing movie. It's one of my favorite movies. This could be in a top 10. It's definitely in the top 20.
Yeah.
For me, and I think it's brilliant all around. The editing, cinematography, the music, the acting, the story. It's perfect, and it's great. I truly love it. This is a movie that has stuck with me since 2003, and I rewatch it all the time. I didn't have time to rewatch it in preparation for this podcast, but it didn't matter because I have it devoted to memory. And it was I even used this in a class project when I talked about taking stills of movies and treating them like pieces of art. There's like how good movies with good cinematography, you can take a still and it can hold its own like a photograph or like a painting. And I've been in love with this movie ever since 2003. 5 stars. All right. Well, we have 5 stars across the board. Please, if you like this episode, go back and listen to some of our other directors that we've talked about, and go to thenerdparty.com and find out some of our other shows. You can also reach out to us if you have an idea of which director you would like us to tackle. Email is the best way to get a hold of us by going to thenerdparty.com/contact and selecting Houselights and sending us a message. Or you can send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We check Facebook once a week, and so if you want to get a hold of us, you can do that there. So Darren, what are we doing next week?
Well, next week we're going to be ending our decade by decade of Edward Zwick as we jump to 2014 with Pawn Sacrifice, A Tale of Bobby Fischer, here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.